Hey everybody, this is Henry. Exciting video today. As I'm sure most of you have already heard, we got new content for Armada. Can you believe it? Armada is alive. AMG has not forsaken us. We got actual new content. Now, with the small disclaimer that this is like a print and play thing, it's not actual new ships or new cardboard or new squads or anything, but it's, for all intents and purposes, new ships and new squads that you can use in your games. AMG said this is, all valid, all very much real, not any kind of April Fool's joke or anything. You just got to print these off, slide them into your card protectors and suit it up and play, which is fantastic. This is, exactly the kind of thing that they can do right now if they don't have any, actual new plastic, like new ships in development. This is such a good idea. I hope they continue to do more of this. It's called the Rapid Reinforcements 1, so that, makes me think that there may be more in the future, and I think it's such a good idea. I was, like most of the community, super excited to see all this stuff today. So I'm just going to do a quick breakdown of everything for those who haven't seen it or maybe want my opinion on it. But it's been a lot of hubbub in the Armada community today. Quick note on the audio. I know it's, there's been some problems in previous videos of it being too quiet for some people. I am hoping I fixed it here. If it's too loud for some of you, I apologize. But for those of you for whom it was too quiet previously, please let me know if this fixes it. But without further ado, let me hop into this. I want to say right off the top, all of this could be subject to change, and that's, kind of a good thing, because if any of these stuff is too strong or too weak or not exactly what they wanted it to be, AMG can always change it, because these are just pictures and people can just print off new pictures. There's no actual physical cards associated with this stuff yet, and so they are free to change this as they see fit, which I think is really awesome. They can balance it as it needs to be balanced rather than having to send out new erratas and stuff like that. But anyway, let's get into it. We'll start with the Empire at the top. Empire gets a Venator 2, and it should note all of these are ships from other factions or new pilots, stuff like that. So the Empire gets the Ven 2. As you'll see, the slots are a bit different. It's got Turbo Laser, 2 Ordnance, which is fun, Defensive Retro, a Weapons Team, and an Officer. 100 points, so it kind of sits right in between an ISD and a VSD, which is an interesting spot. Still a large ship, obviously. It retains a lot of the same things as the Venator. It's got 3 squad, obviously the terrible nav chart of the Venator, and then the rainbow dice in the front and the back, and 2 blue, 2 red out the side, with 9 hull, 2 flak dice, etc. This one is one of the more interesting changes, or excuse me, one of the more interesting additions. A couple things to note about the chassis itself. Double ordnance is kind of the big thing, and I think that's really fun. I don't know how competitive it's going to be. It's kind of, it makes you have to think about, why would I take this over an ISD? The big things that I would say are for it are the fact that you've got double ordnance and a turbo laser, which is very cool. It's a combo that they don't have. So you could do something cool like, I don't know, Rax APTs and H9s or XI7s. Those are things that immediately sprang to my mind. You can be an absolute maniac and run Rax and expanded launchers and like XI7s or something, which is insane, but you could do it. So I've been messing around with ideas, but cool stuff there. The defensive retro is obviously nice. Weapons team and officer are also nice. You could do, I don't know, some flak boat kind of stuff if you wanted to. Unfortunately, you can't take flak guns because you don't have the offensive retro, which stinks. But it, offers a huge amount of flexibility, and I think that's what this stuff is all about, is giving you new options. And I think this is super, super cool. The big thing that this lacks is an ion slot. With PDX being all the rage, this thing really misses having them. And it's kind of an issue that Republic players have had to deal with, of not having ion slots. That's the big thing that something like the ISD-2 has over this ship, or even the Kuat. They've got those ion slots. And so that kind of stinks, and that's the big thing I think holding this back. But I think this is a very fun ship, and I think especially in casual lists, this will do very, very well. This is probably the ship that I am most interested in trying to make work, simply because it fits a price point and like has the loadout for some ideas I want to try. So you may see this in some upcoming list builds. Over to the right side here, this caused the biggest stir out of anything that got released today. For those of you who are just now seeing this or saw it a little bit later, this is not the Vader we were initially shown. The Vader we were initially shown, which was deemed by AMG to be just an error and things got fixed, was the card you see in front of you, except it had a scatter instead of an evade on a 6-hull TIE Defender, no less. And the ability, which I'll get to in a second, was not just for unique squads, it was for everything. So this obviously is Darth Vader on a TIE Defender with standard Defender hull and speed of 6 and 5 respectively. It's got an anti-squad of red, blue, double black, which is pretty lethal, and an anti-ship of double red. He's got Adept 2, Bomber, and Rogue, so instantly so much better than the Vader in the Advanced. And then his ability is, while attacking a unique squadron, each of your critical icons adds 1 damage to the damage total. That's important because before they got it corrected, that didn't have any kind of qualifier. It was just like your crits add damage. And so he was potentially rolling, had a very high chance to roll 4 damage against ships. He could roll, I think it was 7 damage against squads or something like that, which was crazy. They definitely toned him back with the fixes. I think this is what he was meant to be. I think the other stuff may have been a previous version or something wrong. I mean, that's all speculation. This feels better. Now, I still think Vader is very, very good. I think this is a fantastic squad that's going to be, as close to an auto-include as you have in the Empire right now. I think he might be better than Merrick. Who knows? I think the big things that help him are Adept 2 and Rogue, more than anything. And he's only 25 points, which is not honestly that much considering what you get. Now, the non-corrected version was hands down the single best squad in the game by a country mile. It was super stupid broken. So I'm glad that this is actually what it's going to be, and this is what we'll have on the table and stuff. So I think he's actually going to be a lot of fun. I don't think he'll be too strong, but for all of this stuff, only time will tell. But I'm excited to use him. He kind of fits a niche, or he fits a role that I need in some lists I'm working on, particularly, with this Ven 2, actually. I think I can do cool stuff here. So that's the Empire. We'll hop over to the Rebels. Rebels are kind of weird. So they get the Providence with the weirdest upgrade bar I've ever seen. 2 officers, 2 weapons teams, 2 offensive retros, and 2 support teams for 95 points. It's the normal Providence chassis, except you've got only speed 2, which is the big thing. This nav chart is horrendously bad. You've got squad 2, which stinks, especially since it's called the carrier. I was really hoping that they would do squad 3 or 4, because I really, really wanted the Rebels to get a genuinely good carrier. But whatever. And then an evade instead of a contain, which is pretty interesting. And then obviously rainbow dice everywhere, which is always difficult to make work. This is the one that people are having the hardest time wrapping their heads around, but that kind of makes it exciting. Like, whoever is able to figure this ship out and really maximize its potential, I think that's going to be a ton of fun. I think it's going to be very exciting to see. I'm definitely going to mess around with it, see if it can, do something similar to like my current iteration of my like Agate list. I think you kind of have to run it with Agate. Unfortunately, maybe you could get away with Radis, but you mostly want it with Agate because you've got no defensive retro. This is a very squishy ship without Agate, so it probably has to be stapled to her. But like I said, maybe you could find other weird stuff to do with it. I'm not going to rule out anything at this point. This upgrade bar is crazy. There's already been a ton of theory crafting about what you can do with this. Try to make B-Wings work, do full salvo builds, etc. So I'll be interested to see what people come up with. It's important that you can take engine techs, because this is awful right here. So if it's engine techs are going to be pretty much stapled to this ship. But I'm excited. It's weird, it's wacky, it's great. Then we've got Hera in an X-wing. Standard X-wing, 3-speed, 5 hull, double brace, anti-squad of red, double, blue, black, like Lando, and then anti-ship of a black die, which is nice, not that darn red die. When you are activated, friendly squadrons at distance 1 that have escort gain adept 1 until the end of the round. She's also got dodge 1 and bomber. This ability is good. I think Hera is definitely good. There's a couple rules clarifications that they need to do with this, like specifically with Adar Talon, because as most people have interpreted it thus far, it's when Hera is activated. And so does that just mean like on the round or on the squadron activation where she is activated, you can get the ability? Is it when her activation slider is toggled? If you have Adar Talon and you do Adar Talon, so you're toggling her slider, doing whatever with her, and then untoggling it again, how does that work? So definitely some stuff that needs to be clarified. But very, very interesting. It could slot right into like big balls with Jan and stuff. I think that's where she'll be best. I really, really wish she had Rogue, because I would have loved to have used her in my Guppy Special fleet, the one I've taken to all these tournaments. But they didn't have to give her Rogue, and I think she's still going to be very good without it. She, importantly, doesn't have Escort, so she doesn't give herself Adept 1, but she would just be giving it to X-Wings or YT 1300s. So I'm interested to see how people use her. It's probably exclusively going to be in Biggs Balls, but I think she'll be very effective in that role, and I look forward to seeing what the rules clarifications are for her. So she's, I think, kind of middle of the road. Could be very good, could be fine. I don't think she'll ever be bad, so I'm excited to see what happens. Now we've got the Republic. Down here, they get the Vic 1, which makes sense. They've got the upgrade bar of double ordnance, offensive retrofit support, the weapons team and officer. Let's see, salvo instead of the second redirect, the same crappy nav chart as a Vic. The rest of the stats, I believe, are all the same. This is another interesting one. It totally makes sense, just like in universe wise, that they get the Vic, because the Republic was using it before the Empire. One of the big things that everyone's pointing out is this is 75 points. You can take Spats on it and just be a degenerate and run like 4 of these with Spats. I don't know that this ship is going to be any good. It's really going to struggle against squads, because it doesn't have that ion slot. It double ordnance woohoo. I don't think it's as good as on this as it is on the Venator. But it natively comes with the support team, aka the engine tech slot, so you don't have to have Harrow or something. Importantly, should note, pretty sure almost all of these will not be able to take existing titles. The Venator will maybe be able to take I think 7th Fleet, whatever it's called. But yeah, these don't come with titles as far as we know. And so it's nice to have the engine tech slot without having to take Harrow. This is honestly a wild card. I think it's more of just a for fun ship. It could, some people have said, it could kind of push out the Acclimator, but I don't think it will. I think the Acclimator does a lot of stuff very well, and I don't know that what the Vic does better than the Acclimator, except raw damage in some cases. But then it also can't take a defensive retro, so I don't know. It's very interesting. I think people are going to run it with Spats. I think people may use it as carriers. I would love to see someone try to make it work as like a brawler with a double ordnance, but who knows? It's, again, I'm going to say that this whole time, I can't wait to see how it plays and see how people use it. The Republic Ace we get is another Anakin Skywalker, this time on a Delta 7, with the normal Delta 7 stats, but he's got blue, double black for anti-squad and black anti-ship. Adept 2, Counter 2, Dodge 1 with Brace Scatter for 24 points with the ability, while attacking a squadron during your activation, at the end of the Resolve damage step, you may choose up to 2 enemy squadrons at distance 1 of the defender. If the defender was damaged, the chosen squadrons then suffer 1 damage. This is, I think, a good addition. It's another Delta 7 ace for the Republic. I think this is the 4th one, if my math serves me. I don't know. I don't play much Gar, honestly. But, yeah, I think he's good. I'm saying that for a lot of these these squads. He's good. It's kind of like a pseudo splash. You can target something that can't scatter the damage away, and as long as you roll at least one, you can damage other stuff around it. That's very good for scatter, like against something that has scatter aces next to it. Stuff that with counter, stuff you don't really want to shoot at, stuff that's obstructed because it's just stuff at distance 1. They don't have to actually be an LOS or anything. So I think he's good. He's a very aggressive card. You can't take the Anakin Y-Wing with this, obviously, which the Anakin Y-Wing is one of the best squads the Republic has, so that could create some interesting fleet-building choices. But I think this is instantly, one of their better aces, and so I think he's a great addition. I'll be interested to see how people use him. And then last, on the surface, we have the most boring one, because the CIS didn't get a squad, which is kind of weird. They really could have used another Belabulub ace, or at least some other ace in general, because they already had the least number of aces. But not everyone shares this opinion, I should preface. But I think them getting a Gazanti is a huge deal. We've got, obviously, the Gazanti, but this one has a lot of weird changes. I'll start with what's not changed. Everything right here is the same, and I'm pretty sure that nav chart's the same. I'd have to double check. But basically, everything on this card is the same. However, look at this upgrade bar. An ion slot, a weapons team, and an officer. This is kind of nuts. And I think this is what makes it really cool. I think if they just got a Gazanti as is, yeah, whatever. I mean, it's good. They needed a cheaper activation, in my opinion, if they're meant to compete with the Rebels and the Empire, with their cheapest previous ship being 47. You've instantly lopped 20 points off. 20 points is significant. That's like your whole commander, basically. It also lets them do some really cool things. This is the things that I think this is going to be great with. Obviously, Freedom Bot comes to mind. Being able to throw with a Confire tile, a blue and 3 blacks, or two blues, 2 blacks, if they've got double raid on them. That seems really cool. You've got Martuk, which you're potentially doing, let's see here. There's certain builds where you can get like 6 dice with a double arc out of a 27 base point ship, which is nuts. People have been talking a lot about Kraken and running like highs or something on this and just being super annoying, or just using it as a cheap ship to get the Kraken effect off. I think that's really cool. Something that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about, which I think is pretty significant, is in a list with, like, I don't know, Trench or something, or anything where you're running squads. This is like the cheap carrier that the CIS really, really wanted. That was a lot of conversations I've had have been about the CIS not having great carrier options. Here you go. This is your 2 to 3 squad pusher right here that can take flight controllers, which I think is awesome. If nothing else, it's at least a cheap activation that you can slot in. If you need padding, I don't think the CIS really needed activation padding, but it lets you do, like I said, cool stuff with all these different commanders. I'm very excited to see how people use this. I think it's a fantastic addition. I think a lot of people are sleeping on how big this is going to be for the CIS, but I think, once these get into fleet builders and you start putting lists together and getting this on the table, I think people are going to realize that this is probably a pretty big deal. But who knows? I could be totally off, and that's the thing about all this, is we can speculate as much as we want, but no one has seen any of this or I guess, unless you're a playtester, no one's seen any of this on the table. We don't actually know how this is going to play, how lists are going to shake out, how this stuff's going to affect the meta. We can make guesses, but ultimately, that's just the beauty of it, is we'll have to see how it plays. We'll have to, to get playing with the cards, get building those lists, and see how this stuff goes. Regardless, I think it's just such a great addition to the game. And I don't want to speculate too much on how to build all of these things or exactly how they'll be. I'm just looking forward to seeing the community play with it, and that's why I'm so thrilled with that AMG did this. I hope they do this more in the future. Give us some more cards for stuff with existing product. I think that's a great idea, while they slowly design the next actual ship or actual squad they're going to release. But I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate the outpouring of support I've gotten recently. The Adepticon recap video really did well. I think it got over 1,000 views in just a few days. So thank you guys so much for watching this content. I'll be doing more in the future. Again, I hope the audio is better here. Let me know if it is or isn't. But you guys take care. I'll catch you later.